So we are recording, and yeah, I see the file. Okay, so things are a little different here. Oh wait, no, it is there. For whatever reason, the OBS wouldn't hook into Going Medieval, which the key was provided by Tinsley PR for the Irregular Corporation. It won't hook into the game, so it's currently hooked into the window, which is why we have the FPS counter up here. But also, I've done something else. And we'll see how this goes, and it's also kind of interesting. At the time I'm recording, I haven't responded to the comment yet, but somebody left a comment about the game audio being too high and that he can't hear what I'm saying. Hang on. Oh, it looks like it may have finally hooked into the game. In which case, then I want to... Yeah, it hooked up to the game. Okay, so I just turned off the window capture. Now, it is weird that he said that he couldn't hear me over the game, because I do process the audio such that the game audio should be lowered when I'm talking, but in any case, two things, really. One is, I didn't realize, apparently OBS does capture without considering what the Windows volume is, so I can't actually turn that down, so that helps my ears. And you know what, I will also lower the volume, the in-game volume as well. I'm so glad this has a master volume. It gets annoying when games don't have that, which also means that then I can turn this up, the Windows volume up. But also, okay, that's too loud for my ears, but it does impact OBS, so there's that. So the mic I use when I'm on the desktop is actually directly over the laptop. It's not in the most convenient of spots for the laptop. So I decided to grab my old interface that still works, my old USB audio interface, and I have that hooked up here, so I'm actually using a nice mic. I have no idea it should be a much better mic. Should sound a lot better than what's on the laptop. But it may also be picking me up better, but it's also the processing might end up being better, might make me a bit louder, a bit clearer, because it would be a more sensitive mic as well. So yeah, we'll just have to see how that goes, and I have no idea what it is I want to do. Animals are hungry. Well, I guess they're gonna take care of that themselves, which is fine with me. It is annoying, by the way. I will just say, it is annoying, the whole them needing meat, and I'm really not sure what counts for that. I'm like, fish would make sense, right? I mean, it doesn't seem unreasonable. It is still a meat. There. But I can also kill some chickens. And again, I'll keep saying it, they need to have it be algorithmic. They need to have it so that you can, like at this age, just do that, but make sure you always have a certain number of male and female. Alright. Yeah, it looks like we got plenty of mature chickens we can slaughter. So it really just comes down to a question of age. So, goodbye Bobby. And Nix. Ebia. And we can do another Shadow. Looks like we also have enough deer, we can probably slaughter one or two of them. Yeah, just that one. Just have a couple things noted. Yeah, let's go with that one. Alpha Protocol is on GOG, which actually, hey, I want to check something quick. Okay. There's honestly a part of me, I'm not sure if I already have a copy of that. But anyway, so that's... I don't remember when it originally released. 2010, I think, maybe? An older game, definitely, but it's one of many games that have been lost, that have been delisted because they it used a licensed soundtrack, and the soundtrack, the license expired, so we can't sell it anymore. Which is definitely an annoying thing, but it is what it is. That's what happens sometimes. So it got taken down. You couldn't buy it anymore. Well, and there's a lot of games that this has happened to. Well, GOG worked with Obsidian, who did the development, and Sega? What was it, Capcom? I don't remember who the publisher was. But worked with them to actually bring it back, get the licensing straightened out, so it is now available for purchase on GOG. But also they applied some other updates to it, so it now supports it now supports modern operating systems. It also supports controllers, cloud save, which I got a thing to say about cloud save in general, and the achievements. Yeah, I'm sorry. Just I don't cloud save. I get it's awesome to have and all that. Don't get me wrong. I love it. It's just. Yeah. Hey, sorry. I'm just. There. Although, hang on, is it? Yeah, so it's all like that. Okay, but it's just cloud saves, in theory, should actually be. It shouldn't have to be something, in my opinion, that's set up by the game. That's something that should be achievable from GOG Galaxy, from Steam, from the Epic Games storefront. Because I'm like, something I did on the desktop is I actually have every game that I can find where the saves are supposed to be. I set up symbolic links so that well, here, let me look. Okay, I'm looking at Going Medieval on the desktop. So the game is currently paused here. Okay. Yeah, so save game data location on Windows is in the user profile, app data, local low, Foxy Voxel, developer, Going Medieval, village saves. So that's where the save files are, right? Now, what I would do is I set up symbolic link, which is sort of a specialized shortcut, specialized link, where if you click on it, well, if you open it up, it basically acts as though this folder in a different location on your computer is there. So I have all my saves actually in one location, in one folder, that I can then just back up. In theory, that's something that Steam could do. That is something GOG Galaxy could do, is make all those symbolic links, put it in a single spot, so then you can easily back up the files yourself. Or just be like, hey, I want the files here, and then I will handle the cloud saving. I mean, it is one of those things where it's like, I don't understand why so much of it has to be like managed by the game. It is absolutely something that could be managed externally. So it's like every game you could have supporting cloud saves. But it's also, if I worked at Valve, which I doubt would ever happen, but I legitimately would be pushing that, no, we need a standard where this is where all saves are stored. Okay, because it's so annoying, because it's like this, in app data. Every Windows computer has a My Games folder. I mean, here, let me, where that would be. Saved games. Okay, I just opened up my profile on the laptop here. Saved games is a folder just in the user profile. Saved games. It's currently empty because so little actually use it. It's like, I think there's even like in the PC gaming wiki, it shows %, user profile, %, because it's a variable. I think some of that, like the saved games folder, is just a location Like, if you do %temp%, that gives you the temporary files folder. And that's just part of Windows. You could do that with this as well. At least I think something like that does exist for the save games. Even if not, that's just an environment variable. Then in theory, you can set. And applications are able to do that. Steam could be set up. Hey, you installed Steam. Great, we're gonna do this now. But nothing works, but nothing does that. And it's just like, I would be that asshole at Valve being like, no, this is a standard that we're now doing, obey it. Or, you don't get to use certain features of Steam. Because I think that is the case for some of the stuff with Steam. That in order to use, like, there's a Steam Tools SDK, I think, something like that, that's like for a better integration with various things. Certainly the multiplayer stuff that Steam handles, it's using that. But it's like, just make it way, okay, if you want to use this, you have to now do this system for this. It's also the SDK that allows you to set up the cloud saves. And I would just be like, no, we're going to restrict this. We're going forward. The saves have to conform to this placement style so that it's easily backed up. So that, things are collected together and easily backed up. Because it's just, why put them everywhere? And, as an aside, that's kind of related, is it annoys the hell out of me. Some applications will try to install into app data, typically not local low, but like roaming. Chrome is actually one example of that. I hate this, okay? This is wrong. And what so annoys me is one of the explanations I once saw for why. That it's Linux people. And it's like, okay, this is... And the argument I saw is like, this is as contrary to the caricature, the stereotype at least, of Linux people I can imagine. Because it's like, oh yeah, we do that because, it's the app data folder. So obviously that's where all the app data should be. It's like, no, that's a configuration file folder on Windows. App data, the application files need to go into program files. That's where it goes. And you want these separate. Because it's like you can actually, with Linux, have applications installed under the user profile. It's like, this is really stupid and even asinine. Even beyond stupid to the level of being asinine, I mean. Because you can't, like, take, I'm just trying to think, take OBS, okay? OBS is a few hundred meg, I think it is, installed, right? The configuration files are just text files. So that's like a few hundred K. That few hundred K is unique to me. No one else uses those configuration files but me, because they're my configuration files. But I don't even know how many people use OBS Studio. If they need OBS Studio, they can just download it and install it, and they're good. Okay? So you can always go and find those files. You can always go and get those back. You can't always get the configuration files. So keep those separate, because if I need to recover OBS Studio, download the installer if I got the internet, and then back up and then restore back of the config files. That's how it should be. You should have these separate so you can do that. And it's also typically configuration files being text-based are easily compressed. Easily and efficiently compressed. So it's another reason why, really, you should have those separate, so it annoys me when they put them together. Now this this is still not good, because I don't know why it's under local low. But at least it is in theory. If you just back up your app data folder, you have your saves for going with you. So I'll grant that. But it's just annoying. And it's also really annoying that, like with Windows, it's like they could do Windows, Microsoft itself could do things to make some of this stuff better, but they don't. They're more interested in making a pretty UI that isn't necessarily all that functional. What was it? I saw something, it was a few weeks ago. Some, like, former engineer at Microsoft saying that, oh yeah, you don't realize that it's basically the UI people. Well, the artists. The UI artists at Microsoft that are making decisions, functionality decisions for Windows. Because, oh, well, this will look good, so that's what we want to do. Instead of engineers. And that, basically saying, yeah, that's part of the reason why you see things not be ready when they come out because they can't be. It's like the artists are so often changing their minds, and I've experienced this as well. There's one place I once had a connection with where it was artists that were making development decisions, and it's like these are people that, no offense to them, but they don't know what it is to develop. Alright, let's have a look here. But somehow they're the ones responsible for various development decisions. And it's very dangerous because, as I said, if they don't know what they're doing, they risk screwing a lot of things up. I don't need another dog. Don't need flaxseed. Yeah, I don't think I need the honey crispels either. Don't need stick traps. Lots of stuff I could sell, though. Yeah, give it the flimsy there. Okay, so apparently good is better than sturdy. Okay, so what is it that I do want from him? You know what? Yeah, I'll take some ale, because there are people that complain about wanting stuff to drink. That'll work. And this is... Oh, no. Down here are the window clothes. Do I have a second one? No, I don't. I have stone... Doubled up stonemason, doubled up butchering. And that, okay. I'm just trying to think, did I have any other point to make with that? Not really. But yeah, I mean, it is just, I could see it being you need the engineers, the people that actually do the work or know the work to be in charge of some of this stuff. Or with something, I don't know who I'd need to argue for in that regard. Like I was saying for engineers, I don't know who I'd need to argue for with regard to that save thing with trying to build it into Steam. I could just see that being you need people that would want to collect all the saves together and to have them backed up like that. Well, to have them easily backed up like that. This is why, by the way, I scheduled to start producing the winter clothes, because I do think we're approaching the point where I'm gonna want to make sure I have enough. Yeah, because I mean that's not necessarily just an engineering thing. It's not like, oh, an engineer will think to make sure that's the case. That's not the situation. It's my brain keeps wanting to turn off. It's a specific, somebody who is like me, who would be like, hey, we got to do this. Okay. Or, hey, we should do this. But it's also, like, just going back with the Microsoft stuff, one thing that I know, I'm not sure if he's saying that as he's heard it from people, or if that's just a speculation, but Wendell of Level 1 Techs has pointed out that some of the stuff with Windows, especially Windows 11, and how you do the search and gives you Bing results, the reason why he says that's there, and I'm not sure if that's speculation on his part or if he does know, is because it lets the Bing, it gives a boost to the Bing side of Microsoft. So every time that there is a search in Windows 11, it pops as a use of Bing, so they're able to better justify their existence and the amount of money they get. So it's like, that's not there to improve the quality of Windows. That's there to help justify. Oops, I don't want to cut that. To help justify Bing. Yeah. I don't know how accurate that is, but at the same time, it's like I can absolutely believe that. Yeah. You're not lacking in entertainment, okay? You're really not. Yeah. But it is also, I will add one thing, that you do also have in other places as well where you don't have people that are the actual... They don't have the experience of doing the work, but they're still put in charge. Like, the FCC is one example of that. Where it has been a long time since an actual engineer has been one of the commissioners for the FCC. And you can tell that because of certain things that they have done over the years, like, I'm trying to remember how long ago it was now. That was in the 90s, the Spectrum sell-off. Which, by the way, as an aside, some people talk about how Bill Clinton balanced the budget. Well, he actually didn't. It was DC balanced in that they were projecting that the money that would be made by selling off parts of the radio spectrum, they were predicting that, oh, that's going to bring in this much money and that'll cover the budget. It never brought in that much money. But yeah, they tried selling off a portion of the spectrum that's used for like radio broadcasts, AM and FM. Not sure if shortwave would have been covered in that, but also television. And it's not good. And they are doing other things that's basically, yeah, this is not improving the quality of anything. In some ways, it is making it worse. And yeah, I just had a funny idea. I can do it too. I can make this into a fancy... into a fancy bridge. I feel like doing it. There. But yeah, so things like, because we do watch broadcast television, and it's, let me just point out, I mean, yes, there's a lot of modern shows that I wouldn't bother with watching, but at the same time, it is, there. There's also some that, you know, are good to watch, and also there's a lot of channels that just play classics, and it's like, this is all free. Like, you need a TV and an antenna, and there's a lot of places that sell... They're not necessarily very good antenna, very good antennas, but they do sell them, and you can't use them. They do work. And excuse me. Yeah, you can do that and watch. It's like there's one that we have in the area called MeTV from Memorable Entertainment Television. They've got bunches of good shows on there. You know, I'll just pull up the schedule and try to give a quick rundown on some of them. I'll look mainly at the weekday schedule for now. Alright, full schedule. Alright, hang on. Turn on. There. That should be. Load the earlier shows as well, because I want to see the full day. Come on. Maybe I should just pull it up on the desktop. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. At 5 a.m., these would be Eastern times. They have Highway Patrol. Not familiar with that. 5:30 and 6, they've got Dragnet, which I do know Dragnet. Yeah, that's a good show. I could. That is one though that you need to know what it is. You need to be interested in it. I'd say because it's it and Adam 12 are both this, where they basically went through the actual crime reports from the LA area and would basically reenact them. And it started off as a radio program as well. It is a little odd because that's just how. Oh man, why can't I think of his name? Why can't I think of Mark 7 Limited? That's the company star, but I can't think of the dude who really was the driving force behind Dragnet. And I can see him. He played Joe Friday. But it's just his delivery is a little different. But he, I mean, it's a very interesting show, but it is you have to be interested in. I would still say, though, give that a try. Like, if you can see it, yeah, watch a few episodes, just see if you like it. If you don't, that's fine. But I could see some people being like, okay, yeah, this is actually really interesting. My Three Sons, which is sitcom featuring, why can't I remember it? Wow, I'm just blanking on people's names. But it's basically a widowed father, his three sons, and like a grandfather or an uncle. I don't remember what the relation is. It was initially, I believe, their grandfather, but that actor died, so they had to replace him and became an uncle then. But it was basically just the adventures or misadventures, a sitcom of this widowed father trying to take care of his three sons, trying to raise them properly and all that. But it does eventually develop into the show just about the sons because it went long enough and like they grew up, got some of them, at least one of them got married and had, I think it was twin daughters. Then they have their Tune In With Me, which is the original, but they're playing, they run classic cartoons in there like Bugs Bunny and such. Leave It to Beaver, which is one of the most classic at this point sitcoms about well, in this case, two boys growing up. It gets kind of sappy, though. I mean, it still can be a good show, and I can understand watching through it once. I couldn't do it multiple times. Perry Mason, then, they have a few hours of mystery stuff. Perry Mason is a classic. It is just classic mystery kind of show. Courtroom-based, where he's a defense attorney, and he's like his client is always accused of something, and he has to not only prove that, well, he not only has to prove they are not guilty, but he does also invariably prove who did it, which is actually why there's a term, the Perry Mason defense, which is when a defense attorney in real life actually, instead of trying to prove their client's innocence or lack of guilt, that's actually what a defense attorney actually just needs to ensure their rights are protected. That's all the actual requirement is. Then there would be proving that they're not guilty, which doesn't mean they're innocent. That's different. That's just saying, no, you can't actually show that he or she did this. Then there would be proving innocence, and then there would be, no, this is the dude that actually did it. But yeah, it's because Perry Mason always achieved that. That's why it's called that. Matlock, which is another one. That one stars Andy Griffith. I do remember his name. Another courtroom drama. Not quite like Perry Mason, because one thing that it's very formulaic in that there's always, he makes some accusation at probably about the half-hour, 40-minute mark that is wrong, but it still like gets him, what information that reveals gets him on the right track, and he eventually does figure it out. And it's also just newer. That's from like the 90s. Perry Mason, I want to say, is like 60s. In the Heat of the Night, which is, well, Matlock would be 80s to 90s. In the Heat of the Night is 90s, I want to say. And that's detective drama and mystery. I don't watch as much of that, but it's the characters from the classic movie In the Heat of the Night. Not the same actors, though. The Waltons, which I think that would be counted more as a drama than a sitcom, but it's about a family, the Waltons. In Appalachia, I think it would be counted as, and mostly part pre-World War II, part during, and then after World War II. Gunsmoke, which is the prototypical Western. And to help put that in context, that thing went for 19 seasons on television. it also was a radio drama before that, and I mean, it is huge. And definitely a lot of especially the earlier years, quite good. Quite good. I would definitely, that's an easy one to recommend. Bonanza, it's another classic Western, but it gets it gets sillier. So I would consider Gunsmoke, it's better. The Rifleman, that's another classic Western. That only went 4 or 5 seasons, I think. It is much more like Gunsmoke than is like Bonanza. For one thing, it is very much morality plays. Gunsmoke is like that as well. Bonanza, when it's not being silly, is morality plays. And that's one thing. Westerns are basically always morality plays. Wagon Train, that's another classic Western. It's a little different. It has also got the morality play stuff, but an aspect of it is like there's a handful of core characters, and then everybody else changes. So it's like Star Trek was actually, Gene Roddenberry tried to sell it as it's Wagon Train in the stars, where it's like just this core group that you keep those characters consistent, but then everything changes around them. So it also has a bit more drama element to it than I would say even Gunsmoke has. Then you have Adam 12, which, how I described Dragnet, Adam 12 is the same thing, but while Dragnet is following 2 detectives, Adam 12 follows 2 police officers. So, the classic blue uniform officers. Then you've got MASH, which I can understand watching through that at once, but at this point, MeTV is running 2 hours, which is 4 episodes worth, every weekday. That's too much for me. And also some of it gets, when you start noticing the imperfections to the storytelling and to the characters, it's like, wow, this is actually not that good a show. I mean, some are good episodes, but there are some where it's like, nah, this is just getting stupid. The Andy Griffith Show, that's how I could remember Andy Griffith from Matlock. That's another classic sitcom, bringing up a family, because it's widowed father and son, along with Aunt B, who is actually Andy Griffith is the father, son is Opie Ron Howard. And Aunt B is actually Andy's aunt, and she's basically that woman in the family who has never gotten married, never have kids of her own, but will just go between family members where it's like, oh, you have kids to raise? I will come. I will live with you, and I will help raise these children, and I will help take care of the house. So it makes perfect sense that she would come, since it's just the two of them, so to be that womanly influence on the child and also on Andy, taking care of the house. So it makes sense she would be there, but that is what her role is in the larger family. Beverly Hillbillies, which, man, that is a show I think you could, same with Green Acres, both those shows, you could do that today, and it would be hilarious, but I don't think you would get many networks to greenlight doing it. We can let this one. At least let that bridge build. Yeah, I could see some where it's like, yeah, we don't want to do that because we're going to be insulting too many people. I'm thinking about so much today is like set in New York, set in Chicago, set in LA, set in San Francisco. But the whole idea to both Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres is to basically mock those people. Like Beverly Hillbillies, I don't remember what part of the country necessarily they're from, but it's basically hillbillies these are just good, honest people, but they are as far removed from urban life as possible. Get rich, the greedy banker who wants their money in his bank arranges to have them move to Beverly Hills next door to him in a palatial mansion, and it's basically just their adventures, and it is very much a sitcom. They have that honesty to them that a lot of people lack around them. They don't have much education, formal education, but they are, in some cases, tremendously knowledgeable, like far beyond what those around them are, because they're just honest. So they don't have that cynicism, and it is, it's like, no, we will just take care of people. We will just be good to people. It really is an amusing show. But it's like there's one episode coming to mind where Granny, in that she she's kind of a mystical character where things just work out for her, and she has a bunch of like weird remedies for everything. It's like she will cure anything. She just needs the right poultice kind of thing. But somehow it always works. It's like she completely defies modern medical science, but it somehow works. She is convinced that there's going to be a storm this one day, and but no one believes her. And she's trying to tell the weather service, hey, there's going to be a storm this day. You're reporting wrong. And the reason why is she has a weather beetle, which is literally a beetle she keeps in the box. She opens up the box, looks at what the beetle is doing, and that's how she knows. And at the end of this, she's been arguing and is ultimately proven right, because the weather does produce a storm when the head of the Weather Bureau was saying, no, it'll be a fine, pleasant day. It ends with him looking at a portrait of like his father or grandfather that like founded the Bureau, and he notices in the hand of his ancestor, in the hand of his ancestor in the portrait is a box identical to Granny's beetle box. So it's like, wait, he was using it all the time. So it's fun stuff like that. Now, Green Acres is kind of the reverse, where you have a lawyer from New York who I'm gonna actually set this down. Let's actually try to do this. He has been romanticizing over the simple life of being on a farm for years, and finally decides, you know what, we're gonna do it. We are going to. So he takes his wife and is like, nope, we are going. I'm gonna build this out just in case that sapling is from here. And are gonna move to Hooterville in the case of the television show. I'm not sure what it was on radio. It might have been different. The radio was definitely different because it had they had a daughter. But an aspect of it is, and actually the television show is quite different because he is mildly competent. In the radio show, he was not. So it's like he tried planting various fruits and vegetables on his land, and none of them were coming up. They were all failing. So what ended up happening were his wife and daughter just went out and bought the groceries and then basically just shoved them in the ground. He was like, this is amazing. Carrots are coming up where I planted tomatoes. And it's like, but he's so stupid that in the radio program, he's so stupid he thinks that's possible. But in the television show, he's not so incompetent, but he's dealing with all those, well, the kooks. Hooterville has a lot of kooks in it. More so than, even though it's technically the same universe, more so than the Beverly Hillbillies are kooks. They're kooky, but they're not quite that weird. And it's him just trying to deal with them, him with his more advanced knowledge, trying to deal with all that. And also his wife is another one of those just like mystical characters. Things just always work out for her, and it makes no sense why. But there's silly stuff there, like to answer the telephone, they have to climb the telephone pole because the wire hasn't been strung down into the house. Yeah, I mean, it is quite a good show, but it is, again, an aspect of it is making fun of urban dwellers who think that this is the only way of life, this is the correct way of life. So yeah, I could see you couldn't have that remade today. For one thing, I don't know if you would have the people with the talent to do it well, to recreate it today. But also just the whole, you'd be making fun of the very people that are trying to, would be the ones that have to sign the checks to do the production. And not everybody today has a good enough sense of humor for that. Then we got Hogan's Heroes, which is a World War II era show that's set during that. That's it is less fictitious than you might think. The premise to it is you have a German POW camp that the colonel in charge of it, the commandant, Colonel Klink, is not really that effective, but he has a perfect record. No escapes. The reason why is because everyone, all the POWs, are actually they actually have this literal underground espionage system. And it's essentially a base inside of Nazi territory. So they don't want to escape. They're actually useful there. So they help the French underground. They get messages and even equipment out of Stalag 7. Is it 17? No. Stalag 13. 17 is the movie. That's not related to Hogan's Heroes, but it's related to that. And it is a comedy. It is a sitcom, but it is also it is quite amusing. And the weird thing is, not necessarily to the full degree, like, not these elaborate underground structures with, like, oh yeah, we have the forgery press over there, we have the radio over there, there's the chemistry lab for building explosives. No, nothing like that. And not an emergency tunnel just whenever they need to get outside, they can to do whatever and then come back in. No, that wasn't real in World War II. But you might not realize just how much POWs would still would still find a way to connect with local underground efforts to do various things. Because that definitely did happen. It's really quite fascinating. Yeah, so it's not absolutely ridiculous, but is kind of ridiculous. But it is quite entertaining. Cale Burnett and Friends, which is sort of a variety show. I'm just trying to think of what would be. I guess the closest might be like SNL. In some ways, SNL's a variety show as well, but it's. I'm just. SNL has that aura, that air of being almost independent, almost indie with, at least it used to, I only know the classic SNLs, where it's like these are people who you wouldn't necessarily know from anything else, but they're coming together and doing this and having a guest on. Cale Burnett and Friends, it's like, no, the main cast, you would know them from different things, and is also, like, they were there for a long period of time. It is quite entertaining, though. And by the way, that I also know there is, like, on Roku, an actual just Cale Burnett channel. Then they do Perry Mason again, Twilight Zone. How do you go wrong with Twilight Zone? And then you have Canon, Barnaby Jones, which are both detective shows, detective mystery shows in the middle of the night. But yeah, I mean, I know, I just went through all that and gave so much. What's it got to do with anything? Very little. But it is just broadcast television. I'm like, that's one channel, and those are basically all just classics that you can just turn that on and enjoy, essentially. But what happened with the Spectrum sell-off, or at least part of that, and they've been continuing to try to reduce the amount of Spectrum available for channels, is that means that every channel actually has a certain bandwidth to it, and that means that there's only so much data that can be sent through the airwaves, and they've been working that down smaller and smaller and smaller. So you have, instead of, say, 4 megabit per second for a channel, it's now down to like 2 or 1. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And also doesn't help that they have been forcing technology changes that are further forcing things down. Because, like in my area, there's like only a few places that can actually broadcast at the standards that the FCC will be demanding. So you're actually seeing a lot of channels being broadcast by the same place. Well, you can only broadcast on one area of the spectrum. So it's actually forcing, instead of it, because you've got sub-channels, like for here, it's MeTV is 19-2. So there's 19.1, 19.2. I think we also have a 3 and 4. So there would be 4 channels in one part of the spectrum. Well, 4 streams on one channel, technically. Yeah, no, it's actually more like 8, because they're hosting other channels as well. Well, they're hosting other streams as well, all on the same channel. They just are giving different numbers on the television. And this is making it worse. Like, the video quality is obviously degraded, And why? Because in some cases they think they can make money, even though people aren't necessarily buying up the unused spectrum. But it's also they don't know what they're doing. I'm pretty sure at one point they tried to argue that by going to digital, that, we're going to open up so much more. It's like, no, digital doesn't have any advantage over analog in that regard. I mean, yes, you can potentially have data compression, but it also means you also need error correction in there. So it's not as advanced as you may think. And it is also the original, like, if you're thinking, but what about high definition? It's like, they had high definition analog standards before they had high definition digital standards. So that's not true. But they also tried arguing that you would be able to avoid certain issues by going to okay. Oh yeah, that's right. I can actually clear that out, can't I? By going to digital. But it's like, no, that... Oh, wait, hang on. I can't do that yet. I actually need to build the thing. Because they were claiming, like, oh yeah, there's these spots where we could have channels, but we don't. And we'll get that back with digital. It's like, no, you can't. That the reason why we don't have channels there is because of the physics involved. Like, the signals on... That's why you don't have channels 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the same area, because triples, in certain triplets in there, like 2, 3, and 5, they interfere and put noise on channel 4 such that you can't use channel 4. Like that is an actual thing. And there isn't a solution to that. And they were like, oh yeah, we'll get that back. We can fit more channels in a small area. It's like, no, that's not how any of this works. At least the next standard, the next ATSC standard, which will be the broadcast standard for America, does offer one thing, that it's going to devastate broadcast. Because it requires so much more equipment, so much new equipment, and some channels can't afford. I mean, watch the classic movie UHF. It's a Weird Al Yankovic movie, which right there may tell you a lot. But it is a small upstart station that ends up taking on a network, okay, that has all the money in the world. UHF, well, U62 can't afford new equipment, at least not until it gets the profound success it does. But the next standard is going to be more digital packet based, so it's going to be more like a YouTube stream, which in a way is going to be good, because what that may allow then is it may be a single standard then that'll just last forever, where you would change how the day is being broadcast. So it's like right now, I think it is MPEG 2 that's being used. They could have it be MPEG 4. They could have it be, well, H.264. They could have it be H.265. They could potentially have it be AV1. The decoding, you might need a new television or something to update there, but it still is the idea of moving towards a different system that is potentially more capable, more modular in that. Okay, hang on. I there. I want to put one of those down. One, two. Oh. Yes, that'll go there. So at least that, they won't be futzing around with the standard after that, at least not for a while. So that'll be good, but it still is. They're probably going to be forcing more channels into less and less bandwidth. Which is just... I don't know why... Well, I know part of the reason why, because people have ideas that, oh yeah, we can just, use this, and we can just use the radio spectrum to do this stuff, and isn't that amazing? Like, we could set up... I hate this stuff when I see talking about how, oh yeah, we can set up, Wi-Fi to use the radio waves currently used by television and FM. We can use that, and it'll be wonderful, because then we can just broadcast Wi-Fi across an entire park, so that all these people have access to information free. It's like... Or they could just turn on the television and watch the news. Or turn on a news station on AM. That's already being done. I'm sorry, it's just, you definitely have people that are trying to say, hey, isn't this great? We'll solve this problem by doing this. And it's like, yeah, that problem doesn't actually exist. Like, you're really not solving a problem here because it's already been solved. You just want to solve it a different way, and apparently you're too stupid to, or rather too ignorant, to realize you don't need to. And it's kind of like how long ago was it? It was weeks or months. And boy, am I just talking. Where they had somewhere they had done tests with like self-driving semis, and what they found was it doesn't work. You can't really have that because like lane changes and such and monitoring traffic around is too difficult. So if you could instead just have AI controlling like just your speed and have the path fixed and know that you're not going off of that path, that would be best. In other words, they figured out trains. And it's like, yeah. That is a train. Why? At least they did come to the conclusion that it was basically, yes, trains, it makes sense to automate in that way. Although you wouldn't want to automate in that way. You would still want to keep a conductor, an engineer on there to monitor things. But it's still you could have an AI assistant although technically the whole damn thing could just be automated. You don't even need AI. Like AI would just be useful for monitoring track conditions and adapting things based on that. Like, but then it would just be a safety system. It wouldn't be a full piloting system. But yeah, it's you. I do see that. Oh yeah, there are people that are definitely doing that. It's like, yeah, you're idiots. All right, I should really be wrapping this up because we're at 15 minutes. So at the next night, I will do that. Yeah, broadcast is awesome though. I mean, it really is, because you got like that's MeTV. There's another that we like in the house called H&I, Heroes and Icons. That it has a number of westerns, but also has all of the broadcast Star Treks. Like I think it starts at 8 Eastern Time, where it is Star Trek, the original series, followed by TNG, followed by Deep Space Nine, followed by Voyager, followed by Enterprise. So it's just one after another like that. And it is pretty neat that, you can just turn it on and you're watching Star Trek. Yeah, and it's also because, like, those are broadcasts. I'm not even sure who has that streaming at the moment. I think it might be Paramount Plus, which means you have to pay for it, but it's like, no, H&I, it's 6 days a week. You can just turn it on in the evening, and there it is. And I don't know if they skip any episodes, because that is one thing that MeTV definitely does with some, like Andy Griffith. There's no way they're playing the full run of that. MASH, they might be. But yeah, I mean, you've got so many options. Man, but yeah, broadcast is just so awesome. And it's also, I will add this, which is something maybe not many people will get. Saturday morning cartoons were once a thing, that is broadcast. And, I mean, true, I got to grow up when Saturday morning cartoons were a thing that you actually liked. I have no idea if they're any good today. But it's like, that was broadcast. So, yeah, broadcast was awesome. At least it used to be. And MeTV has 3 hours of cartoons every Saturday morning. So that is definitely neat. I'm not sure how many people would care, but that is also pretty neat. Okay, good. Let me get this. I don't really know why broadcast has fallen out of favor like it has. I think some of it might have started with cable. Just the idea that that's what you gotta have, that's where everything is. What the heck? You see? Wow. Oh, okay, so I can just do... But it's like, it moves something out and put something back in there, even though it should not have. Anyhow. I could see being that where people basically got used to having to pay for the stuff or just having the insane wealth of options such that you have selection paralysis. Is that what it's called? Decision paralysis? Like, how do you decide what to watch when you have so many options? And there's still a lot of options, even with broadcast. There's quite a lot. You quitting? There we go. And let me actually try looking. Channel. How many channels do I have? Oh, well, let me do that. Moment, hang. You're muted? Yes. Okay. No. Okay, how many? Oh, I got 4 pages worth. Oh, wait, no. Well, no, maybe... No, I do have 4 pages worth. Because I've got 7 on channel 3, 6 on channel 5, 2 on channel 6, 4 on channel 8, 4 on channel 16, 5 on channel 19. It goes from 1904 to 1910. And I've not scanned for a while, so some of these... Like, I'm seeing some here that don't have a station name. But I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on a channel 22, but none of them have a station name. 6, 7, 8 on channel 25. The heck? That's weird. There's a number on channel 26, but it's like I've got 2 26 ones. That shouldn't be a thing. But it looks like 7 for 26, removing duplicates. 3 on 35. 4 on 43. 3 on 53. 4 or 5 on 55. And then 4 on 61. And also, by the way, H&I is 55.4 where I am, but we also have a movies channel it's not quite like TCM, which is great because of the lack of commercials on it, and that's a cable channel. But movies, it's a broadcast channel, and it may not have as many movies, as nice a catalog as TCM, but it still is I can just turn that on and there's a classic movie on, which is really neat. Really neat. So yeah, broadcast is awesome. And it's a shame that you don't have engineers helping to lead that for the country. They're basically just politicians at this point in charge of the FCC, so they're more interested in power and what to do with it is what I would just define all politicians as. And let me be clear. I mean politicians as that is their career, not just people who serve as politicians, because there is a distinction there. Some people are politicians because that is what their job is, but they haven't made it their career yet. They may, though. Yeah, so the other thing I had noted... what can I say? I like the classics in general. I mean, if you saw my movie collection, boy, you'd definitely know that. But AMD also announced FSR 3.1. So that's a few things going on there. One, the upscaler has been improved. It will support Vulkan, and another thing that's actually very, very curious, and it will be interesting to see what may or may not come of that. They've decoupled the frame generation of FSR 3 from the upscaler, meaning that you could potentially have DLSS do the upscaling, but FSR do the frame generation. Yeah, I'm not sure if that'll actually happen. It technically may be possible. I think it's more likely something like if a developer comes up with their own upscaler, which may just be Unreal Engine has its own built-in, so use that, or taking the upscaler from Fidelity FX Super Resolution and improving that. Sort of like how we got... crap, what is it? I can't remember the name, but TressFX is what AMD came up with the tessellated hair. What did Square Enix end up calling it later? Because it launched in the first Tomb Raider reboot, so Tomb Raider 2013. Rise of the Tomb Raider, the developers came up with their own variant. but I'm pretty sure it was derived from the AMD solution because it was open source. They could. I can't remember what the name was, but in theory, you could see a developer doing something like that, taking the FSR upscaler, making their tweaks to better fit their game, or just their goals or whatever, and then having that be what does the upscaling, and then the frame generation works off that. So yeah, it's hard to say exactly what may come from some of that, but it is definitely pretty neat to see that being worked on, because you could see as a DLSS upscaling FSR frame generation, or XeSS upscaling then FSR frame generation. Yeah, and it's also definitely interesting to me because I still remember with The Witcher 3, FSR, in my eyes, was better than DLSS. I know a lot of people say DLSS is better. Sometimes they say that just generically, they haven't tested. Sometimes it's like, no, here's why. And it's like, yeah, I see what you're saying there, but it's also in The Witcher 3 that wasn't true. Because I still remember, in The Witcher 3, when paused, DLSS had frame stability issues, had image stability issues, and FSR didn't. Like, when paused with DLSS, I would see shimmering. That should not be there. Like, this is a best case scenario, and you're having this artifact. FSR didn't have that. FSR was there were some spots where it was a little softer. Like, there wasn't as much detail, wasn't as much sharpness compared to DLSS. So DLSS beat it there, but that frame stability matters way more to me than that softer detail, especially because when playing, I'm less likely to notice the softer detail because of the motion, but I will notice the frame instability because that's new motion. But it was also how I had that one set of screenshots where DLSS, it literally looked like the smudge filter, the smudge tool in Photoshop or GIMP was applied in one spot. I've got no idea why that happened, and that was DLSS only. XeSS, and that was an early XeSS, wasn't doing that, and FSR wasn't doing that. That was weird. So, I mean, yeah, it is just one of those. They each have their own advantages and disadvantages. And for me, I found the artifacting that FSR produced in The Witcher 3, I found more tolerable than what DLSS produced. And both beat XeSS handily. Because it looked better and performed better. To be fair, though, I don't have a Intel graphics card to test with, because maybe that would have been better. Alright, that is more than enough talking for me, isn't it? Hopefully the audio sounds better. I mean, as I am using my nice mic, it's oriented kind of weirdly. Normally when I'm at the desktop, I pull the mic down so that it's to the side, so it's not obscuring my view of the monitor. Right now, it definitely doesn't obscure the view of the laptop. The laptop is below it. But it is, like, angled. It's positioned about where my forehead is. About a foot and a half in front of me. And just angled down. So it's kind of weird. It's probably picking up better because it's more in line with my voice. Unless my head is tilted down looking at the laptop display. But it still is. It's probably actually better aligned than when I'm at the desktop. So it should sound better. Certainly a lot better than the... Not that the microphones on the Framework 16 aren't good microphones. They do seem to be competent. But it's like, it's two microphones that the openings to them are about, I don't know, 1 millimeter in diameter versus a 1/4 inch, I can't remember what it's called. But it's basically a 1/4 inch sensor in the microphone. And it's capacitance. It's a capacitor, a condenser microphone. Is what it's called. But yeah, so it's going to be much more sensitive, and should be far better quality than this. So it should sound better. I just don't know, because I don't want to leave the audio interface hooked up all the time, and I need to do recordings on the desktop over the weekend as well. So I have to disconnect the mic and put it back on there. But it's just there is some stuff I may want to do with the laptop that using the nicer mic would probably be better. So. Yeah, that's why I want to do it. Want to at least do this as a test. But I will try to look at the audio a bit more closely to see if I do need to make tweaks to the script. When I look at what OBS tells me are the values for the amplitudes, it looks like the script I have been using with the desktop audio should be fine. I don't know why it wouldn't be picking up my voice well, as in actually amplifying it and doing that stuff, so it's easy to hear. And why wouldn't I'm not sure why it wouldn't be silencing the game audio properly, but I can I have the ability to make a lot of changes to that. So I'll try to see if I can fix that up. And like tune it for what the laptop wants. So we'll just have to see what happens. Anyway, that has been this week. It has also been an hour because that was quite a distraction, wasn't it? I'm sorry. It's just for those of you that don't care. I like storytelling. So getting to look through a list of classic television shows that I'm just like they have actually achieved the state of being classic. Maybe not In the Heat of the Night. That's one, maybe not the Waltons. Those two are both new enough. I'm not sure if they're necessarily classics at this point, but basically everything else on the list, those are classic television shows. They've earned that title. I have no idea, in part because I don't watch much, but how many television shows today are going to achieve classic? Or even the more streaming stuff, like Amazon or HBO or Netflix, how many of that will achieve being classic in a generation? I don't know. I can believe that some of it, even stuff that we enjoy today, won't earn that. I'm just trying to think what might be an example of something more modern. I mean, there is one, but I don't know. It is more modern. It's already ended. Person of Interest, but that was like a decade ago. Let me actually see. When did that run? And it was a good show. We enjoyed it. Oh, apparently there's an update to my browser. Really, I thought it ran longer than that. But still has been about a decade now. From 2011 to 2016. Yeah, I thought it ran longer than the 5 seasons it's saying here. But in any case, that was a pretty good show, and I could see that becoming classic. But one issue I would say that may hold it back is it definitely changed. So the premise to it is one guy he helped make, and it was basically his child, an AI that will monitor all the cameras and such, initially in New York, to identify crime or the potential for crime to happen, and then tries to stop it, which is definitely something that could become very dystopic. But people think he's dead, and he's got one guy who more or less has a death wish as well. And it's just these two are doing it. So by keeping it so restricted, you don't have so much fear of the dystopic potential. But then something happened, and they kind of had to change the show a lot. And it got a bit more wild. Snowden happened, and basically showed, oh wait, the government is collecting all this information to do that kind of stuff. And it was about that time that that story came out that you saw Person of Interest change, when now it's there's somebody else, a former colleague, had come up with his own version of a comparable AI, but made various changes to it. One being that it was open, so people could go in and change the algorithm so it could be much more easily used for political purposes, whereas the original, just called The Machine, that was basically designed only for identifying crime. Whereas the other could be used for, we want to find this specific person because we want to hunt him down. Not because he's done anything wrong, but because we don't like him. I believe it was called Samaritan, could do that. So it's like, that was way more police state, way more authoritarian kind of thing. And you also had Root, that was kind of like The Machine and Samaritan are in some ways gods to her. I mean, got a little weirder. But it was also one of those, in some ways it had to, because some of the aspects of Person of Interest and what The Machine did is what Snowden showed the NSA was doing. To one degree or another. I mean, certainly the collection of information is what he demonstrated they were doing. And that it forced them to have to update, have to change, because it's like, yeah, this show that we thought was science fiction isn't so much, so we have to kind of lean into the science fiction a bit more, because we don't want this to be real. We want this to be that little bit of fantasy, that little bit of fiction there. So, yeah. But still, I mean, I could see, though, that the earlier seasons before it went like that being considered a classic. But let me put it like this. That would be... My comments there are kind of like saying Star Trek The Next Generation from like season 3 or season 4 and on is classic, but the earlier seasons aren't. It's like, it would be kind of like that, where that's when they finally found, it's like the tone and such for TNG changed around that time, and that's when it's like, okay, now they've hit their stride. I feel like with Person of Interest, it's kind of they had the tone, they had the stride, and then the world kind of made them have to shift a little bit, and it's still a good show, but it's like, yeah, it's not like it used to be. Yeah, that I could definitely see becoming classic. I don't know about various others, though. I really don't. Including stuff that we do watch today, like in my family that we watch. I don't know. I do not know. But it's also one of the things you really can't predict. You cannot predict what is going to become classic and what isn't. So, like for me, with my storytelling, it's like, I don't even care. I don't care, fine. It doesn't have to be a good story. It's my story. I want to tell it, so I tell it. Although it does make it interesting when I read it, because I enjoy them. So I read them and it's like, oh, this is fun. Because I had to read one a few months ago for a presentation. Another one I'm still going through doing the editing. But it's like, I'm reading it. It's like just last night I'm going through the edit. And it's like I'm smiling for this one chapter. Because it's like, oh yeah, I remember this chapter. This is a fun chapter. I like this chapter. And it's just, to me, they're good. To me, they're classics. Yeah, well, maybe not. But, might not be to anyone else. But that's okay. That's okay. You just tell a good story. Let somebody else decide the rest. Alright, that has been more than enough blathering on. I am sorry. Yeah, so I will stop this. I will get it processing, and I have Audacity on this, don't I? Yeah, I do. So I will also check the audio levels and such to see that it's, see that's good. And if I can readjust and reprocess the audio, that's fairly easy for me. FFmpeg is wonderful. Alright, so yeah, just see you next time.